Dang, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, the 5th of September, 2014. It is time once again for Film Geek Primer Live Review. Hope everybody had a good week. Enjoy your weekend. I'm sure you're out there right now because you're sure shit not here. So let's, before we get to our review, the big zero down below in the corner. So let's introduce to the cast this fine evening. First, of course, we've got Dub. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good.
On my very first Friday night Film Geek Primer.
Were you not here for the very first one?
Isn't it? No. Oh, I may have been for the very first one. On my second.
There you go. Yeah, because you picked Mad Max, and then you weren't here.
That's right, and then I failed forever.
Yeah. So good job. Excellent work.
What did I do?
T, you did okay.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good, man. How you holding up?
I'm all right. It's hot in here.
Yeah,
it's hot in here too.
Yeah. Hey-o. Big old just sweat pouring down his stash by the end of this thing. Also with us is Mr. Warren in his Friday night review sitting up position, so we know he's taking this shit seriously. How good is this,
reviews is serious business.
That's right. That's right. Criticism is a serious business. This is more important than cancer research. We know that for sure.
Exactly.
All that stuff. So tonight we're going to be reviewing a 1986 film, Night of the Creeps, directed by Fred Dekker, who also gave us the cult hit Monster Squad. So Warren picked this film, so he's going to be leading this sucker. So Warren, go ahead and take it away. First off, I guess, give us the reasoning as to why you decided to choose this film.
I guess the main reasoning was that I was flipping through Netflix, see what they had streaming, and when Night of the Creeps popped up in front of me, I remember having good feelings about it when I saw it back in the 80s. Like, I don't think I probably haven't seen it since, cable, so like 87, 88.
Right.
After it came out, and I remember for whatever reason, I remember enjoying it. And so when I saw it, I was like, well, you know what? Let's see if I can still enjoy it more than almost 25 years later.
We're gonna see if it holds up better than Sky Captain of the World Tomorrow does 10 years later. We're gonna do something 25 years later.
Exactly.
Nice. So you want to take it away? How do you want to lead this thing?
I can just tell you what I thought about it on my probably my second full run through of this movie in 25 plus years.
Let's hear it.
I actually had a good time watching this movie. I was a little bit pained by how 80s it was. If anything, it was so 80s. It was like a time capsule of the 80s, and it seemed to go out of its way to be 80s. And I found myself sometimes not even watching the main action going on the screen, but watching background stuff and background people and like signs.
I was doing that too.
And just I was like stuff would catch my eye. Somebody's hairstyle or their shorts or yes, they had gratuitous nudity in it, but I was more inclined to watching the women in their weird underwear and like 80s. Like, really, were their waists that high and their butts that long? like the design of like all that stuff was like really like the sunglasses of the guys at the prom and stuff like that they would put on. And but I was entertained and enjoying it, and I just thought it was funny. And Jason Lively, I was like, God, this guy is like a discount Anthony Michael Hall, and I was like, oh wait, that's right, he was Rusty in European Vacation.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. He was, yeah.
Yeah, he literally is the discount Anthony Michael Hall. He literally is the discount. I was like, God, like before I realized it, I was like, man, this guy's like some cheap Michael Anthony Hall knockoff, and I was like, oh wait, yes, he was. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the movie. The horror was a little bit cheesy, but it did have moments where some of the acting kind of like reeled me in. There was a scene where the best friend gives this little speech in their dorm room, which actually looked a lot like my dorm room when I was in college. So I kind of related to it. He gives a speech about how he was just trying to help his friend and try and do something nice for him. And normally in a movie like this, it would just be like, "Come on, man, I'm just going to get you laid," and like that would be the speech.
Right.
But he like went into this long kind of monologue, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good speech for this caliber of a movie. And there was other moments like that. Like I love the cop, the straight out of the 50s detective, who it was just stuff like that was funny. He could be more angry if he tried at the world.
And
Yeah.
everybody seemed to accept it, and it was, all that stuff was great. So I was, entertained. I actually really enjoyed myself watching that movie.
Nice, yeah. No, I got to admit, it's a blast of a film, and it's totally got the. Speaking of the '80s things that stick out, I had to write this down. Is at one point in time, and I think it's the buddy that is sitting in the restroom. The graffiti on the bathroom wall says "Striper rules."
Yeah,
Yeah.
And for the youngsters who will never be watching this, in the '80s there was a band called Striper, and they were a Christian hair band.
Striper with a Y.
Was Striper with a Y, Stryper. They were a Christian hair band that somehow were big, and they all wore yellow and black leather outfits, and they all they basically looked like a bunch of like if the X-Men were played by bumblebees. This is what they would look like.
Yeah. And the music, and that brings like the music in the movie was like they couldn't afford the actual song, so I'm like, hey, that almost sounds like a Men at Work song, or that sounds like another kind of like, is that the Police or something, like it was knockoffs of '80s music.
They actually got, it was funny because the two songs in it were by Stan Ridgway, who was in Wall of Voodoo, who did the song Mexican Radio.
Yeah.
Remember that? So yeah, because it's like as soon as they,
we know who Wall of Voodoo is. Thank you very much.
All right, well, for the kids. But yeah, because it was like Stan Ridgway has that voice that's completely distinct, and you know exactly who he is when he starts singing. I was like, holy shit, is that a Wall of Voodoo song? And then I had to look it up, and so the music was co-done by Barry Dvorak, who has did a shitload of stuff in the '80s. He did the Runaway soundtrack, the Looker soundtrack. I'm sure he did the Monster Squad soundtrack. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he did, and I have all of those.
Do you? Yeah. And then
I have the Borzon Oeuvre. The Borzon Oeuvre is on my iTunes.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Oh, I believe him 100%.
We'll do a screen share.
I would not be shocked if he had like an LP signed.
You owe me a tweet.
Okay.
So, anyways, Dub, let's hear your feelings about it.
It took me a while to start enjoying myself with this movie. First of all, I was actually explaining this to my kids because it bothered me so much right out of the gate on this movie. So, aliens running down this long hallway,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
And they have single vector laser guns. Can't hit
Anything.
anything.
They went to the Stormtrooper School of Shooting. That's
They
But
did
this was a smaller tunnel.
yeah.
They didn't even have to chase him.
No.
They could have just said, "Oh, I missed. I'm going to move slightly this way and fire again." It was a weird thing to get hung up on, but right out of the gate, I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be problematic."
I'm sure part of their issue though was they were trying to deal with the fact that they were also naked the entire time.
That couldn't
was a
have been
weird-
comfortable.
which was a weird
That
thing.
couldn't have been
No.
comfortable for them.
No.
So,
Now,
and then the other thing I realize is it moves into this 19. So I probably saw this movie several times when I was in high school. I think used to rent it at friend's house. It had a great cover, and that was back when I would rent movies based on their cover.
Yep.
And it's got that great cover, the zombie hand. Anyway, it colored my understanding of what those kind of 50s black and white slasher alien invasion movies were.
right.
I saw this before I saw any of those. And it got me thinking as I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, I must have gotten all of my 50s stereotypes first from this movie before I even saw, Grease.
Right.
And it got me thinking as I was watching it how many other things it influenced. It totally influenced my image of sororities. I figured they were exactly like the sororities in Night of the Creeps. But the other thing I was going to say is I don't recall the alien ending. And I was reading online that apparently it's an alternate.
It wasn't there originally. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't there when I first saw this movie because I didn't remember any of that. There were so many images in this movie. Every single shot of those little things on the ground,
Yeah.
I can conjure up in a second in my brain from having seen it because it was so memorable and it was mostly scary to me at the time. And I was gratified to see that there were some actual genuine scary moments that he was able to produce.
And a couple nice gore moments. I mean, watching the heads blow up and the little things fly out.
Well, yeah, the whole way they split. Once you got into modern times, I started rolling with the movie a lot more. Once it became the 80s sex comedy horror movie it wanted to be, I was more into it. And you mentioned that there was nudity. There was such carefully, awkwardly crafted nudity in it that I almost wanted there to be like you almost wanted there to be a horror style music sting. The same way like when she goes over the curtains and opens them, and it's like and there's like nothing there. Or when the cat jumps in, it's like ding ding ding. And you wanted there to be like when she's got her towel and she drops it, and then there's a quick moment where she puts her shirt on, turns, and then puts her shirt on the rest of the way. And it's like, there's your 2.3 seconds of nudity that we can get away with.
Yeah, and there was also a shower scene, remember?
Yes, of course.
Where the girl in the shower looked really uncomfortable. She was kind of like...
No, this isn't what I moved out from Nebraska to do in Hollywood. Yeah, it was awkward. No, I really and once you got into the sergeant's life, I want to see a TV show based on this sergeant who was this total gruff asshole in a room in like a town full of pretty nice
people, right?
Small town Americana folk.
Aaron, just watch every single Tom Atkins movie and then TV series.
But he held on to this for like 30 years. Like 30 years he did this.
Awesome.
Well, it's like did you notice though that it's like
because I backfilled his life story.
He based himself off of like Dashiell Hammett characters and stuff like that because those were the books that he would be reading. Yeah. So he even had his "Thrill Me" tagline.
Yes, he had a Hammett book in his office at one point.
Yeah. So here's a question that I have. Other than the alien motivation, I don't know why this little alien dude is dumping this shit on Earth for one reason. But the Tom Atkins character is the cop that comes across the serial killer in the 50s. Right. Now it's 1980 whatever, and he is somehow only aged maybe 20 years.
Well, it was 59.
Was it 59? 69, 79? Okay,
so if he was 20, and they said it was like 27 years.
Right, fair enough.
Okay, yeah, so he's only 47 years old. I thought he was he looked like he was way older than 47 years old.
Hard living, my friend.
Yeah, he's a hard living man. Well, wasn't he a heavy drinker as well during most of the film?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was the last person to be openly smoking in laboratories on universities. I thought that was just hilarious when he walks into the cryogenic lab. What do we got?
Well, I like how none of the police seemed to want to be there either. Like all the cops just
everyone hated him.
Like they all had better things to do.
The jerk detective was showing up. It was found by a janitor. Did you get his statement? No. Do your job, terrible cop.
You're talking about the janitor, the Asian stereotype janitor?
I'm surprised there wasn't a gong sound every time they showed him. It was bad.
Well, they did slightly better. Yeah. It's a lot. The movie's a lot of fun. Sorry. Anything else, Dub, that you want to chat about? Any other points you want to make on it?
No, just that it clearly had a surprising influence on my general perception of the world. Including 50s culture, like ghost stories, because it was basically the ghost story.
It had the classic. Yeah.
Right.
In the whole door was the bloody hook kind of fire tale that you would tell people. Yeah.
And then I mean, it's another one of those movies where you keep thinking, I bet they had a lot of fun making this.
Mm-hmm.
And frat boys. I loved every frat boy conversation. Between any of the frat boys was like the best dialogue and the best acting I'd ever seen. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's been a while. You can't watch, like, you can't spoof asshole 80s frat boys. Like, you either get that moment or it just doesn't work, because those guys, I mean, the hair, the way they dressed, the menace in a members-only jacket that they, just gave off as they surrounded him.
That, or they had to have the sweater, the sweater tied around the neck, hang out the back. That's the other frat boy kind of.
I like how he put his hand down at one point when he goes to leave. He put his hand down, and another guy put his sunglasses away. Like, I don't have any friends that would just hold on to my sunglasses for me and then give them to me when I put my hand out.
Like that cracked me up. Like there's just
That's right.
I love the frat boys. They were just generic '80s evil frat boys.
And they really are, and that really is like every frat boy from '80s movies. That's exactly what that cluster group is always like. You've always got the alpha, who's some kind of like bred from some Nazi experiment, and then you've got it's always the perfectly coiffed blonde hair,
Always a boy from
blue
Brazil.
eyes. And then he's got his buddy, who's always there, who like takes the sunglasses and shit like that. But yeah, that is like perfect. If there was a screenwriting program back in the '80s, they could have just pulled these things and plugged them in, no problem.
What's the name of that guy? What's the name of the villain in Karate Kid? The actor Billy.
Yeah, I don't know, but exactly, he's that same guy.
They can name it after his last name. That's the name of the program, the Zubka, whatever that his last name is.
He was that dude. He was the frat boy dude in Back to School. So he got to play that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got inside it.
Yeah.
He owned it.
He owned it. Yeah, he owned it. And I bet you, part of me feels like the best person to hang out with on all of these sets would have been that guy, because they always feel completely self-aware of the character they are playing. They get who they're supposed to be. Because in this one, the dude even trips a guy on crutches, and they'll always beat up on somebody who totally should be beaten up on, and then act like they're cool.
Like, sorry.
Yeah, I picked on the retard.
Come on, babe. Come on.
Yeah. It's
Right.
Well, that's the other trope of these frat boy guys is I'm going to kick a kid with crutches and then assume my girlfriend is going to want to go have sex with me.
So that's like it's foreplay for these guys.
Yeah, right.
It's
He
like,
kicks him down and he leans in. Sorry, she's really into it, I think.
I think.
That's considered first base.
Score.
So
It's slang. So
yeah.
did you get to kick the cripple? If you know what I mean.
That's their slang.
It's
It's a euphemism.
it was like our slang for the big combo when they'd slap them and kiss them.
The old slap and kiss.
The old slap and kiss maneuver.
That's the big combo.
Big combo. Yeah. That's.
Now, was that in the movie, the big combo?
Yes, that's where we got it from. That's where Smith and I got it from. We were watching the big combo, and that was
like, there it is.
And it had the big slap and kiss.
That's the big
And
combo.
after that, we refer to it as the big combo. Yeah, just slap her and kiss her, or vice versa. Doesn't matter who does it. It's not a gender biased combo. Anybody can do it.
Actually, there is one other thing about the movie I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Was anybody else really sad when JC died?
Oh, totally.
I was
first really bummed.
First of all, JC should have gotten the girl.
Right.
You see that guy's move.
Well, he also, and that's the thing, is that it's like, if you got the crutches, you got nothing to lose, right? Yeah.
He had the best outlook on life. I mean, he was like positive. And for some reason, he was able to go back to the room and make an audio cassette tape and explain to the main character, because I guess at one point they realized that, oh God, how is he ever going to figure any of this stuff out? I know. We could have the zombie leave him a voicemail. That's essentially what they did, because they painted themselves in a corner, and so they left the cassette. That he was able to get into the dorm room, leave a message with an arrow on it or whatever the little note was, and then walk out without anybody hearing.
Yeah. No, it was the laziest writing you can possibly even imagine.
But I found that cassette really touching. I felt
and that's the thing. That kid gets the best bits of dialogue, because his whole tape recording. Yeah. The guy goes out on a tape recording, and he goes out strong.
Well, I hadn't thought about this, but he's all the humor, he's all the intellect, he's all the charisma, and he's all the exposition of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty necessary.
Because I mean, after that, they just go after creeps. At that point, it's just like let's start taking them out.
Right, thrill me. So, T, let's hear it.
Well, I think you guys know me. I think you guys know what I like. This is what I mean. I completely agree with Warren. Had a ball watching it. But this is one that I didn't see in the '80s originally. I went a whole 20 years without seeing it, and it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago.
Something like that. I watched it. Yeah.
Saw it on cable. Yeah, and it seemed to be always on one of the Encore channels playing, and they go, what the hell is this? They're always playing this. So one night I think we just sat down and watched it. So yeah, it's a ball. You know, I'm kind of bummed that Fred Dekker didn't go on and do anything else. He seems to be that in that mold of the, you know, the geeky filmmakers that kind of emerged after that first wave of new directors.
Did Monster Squad come before or after this? I thought Monster Squad came after.
This was before. This is before
Okay.
Monster Squad.
So this got him Monster Squad. Although apparently this was a giant dud. He was a screenwriter for Monster Squad?
No, he was a screenwriter before that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right, because I know he wrote and directed. This was his Confabulous Fraptraction. This was the movie. Because I know when I was reading in the Wikipedia, apparently he wanted to make the whole thing in black and white, and he wanted to make it very much like those movies of the 50s. And of course, you know, nobody's gonna make a black and white film. At least you got the little intro piece in black and white.
Right.
Yeah. So sorry. So go ahead, T.
Yes, I mean I totally agree. I had a blast watching it. It felt. I didn't catch the 80s stuff. It felt kind of not. I've seen so many films that are so 80s that have contemporary references that are relative to the film.
Like joysticks.
That I've forgotten. You know, yeah. They mentioned names that maybe 25 years ago would have been a common thing to know, and I'm like, I totally forgot about that.
Right.
So just these contextual jokes that seem out of place. This one, it seemed it avoided that because it was more an homage to horror films, to schlocky 50s sci-fi, to comic books, and you know, teen sex comedies. So yeah, it's the ball. It's a lot of fun, and people. I think if you're into comedies and you're into schlocky horror movies, it's an essential.
Yeah. And I think you're right about that. I think it's comparing this to Sky Captain, where we saw a guy take his love of those old serials and then translate them to the modern day. Or try to basically bring them, update them, but doing really no updates to them. Here you had a guy who basically had a love of those 50B horror movies, brought them to the 80s, and then still made it, you know, added to it by really contemporizing it in many, many ways.
This is the unfortunate thing about Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
I just looked up some trivia, and it looks like the whole reason they put that Striper rules on the bathroom stall is because the makeup artist was dating the lead singer.
Nice.
So they're giving them free publicity. So I think we can all blame Night of the Creeps for the rise of Striper.
Striper, we've discovered.
That's where everybody got it from.
And the stranglehold that Christian rock has had on the country ever since.
That's right. We have found patient zero for Striper. It's Night of the Creeps.
No, it was just riding the wave.
Yeah, I don't know. 86. That's pretty early for Striper. I feel like Striper really didn't hit their stride until like 88.
They came into my town.
I use the word stride lightly, by the way, but
they played at my high school right at the height of their popularity.
And you believe in Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Their work is.
And now I wear this. That was like 87. So yeah, they're super popular.
Well, good for Striper. Good for Striper.
You know, it's funny you're talking about Sky Captain, and I think this is almost the flip side, where Sky Captain was one of those movies where I was really impressed with this fairly inexperienced director's ability to pull off some of the cool visuals he did. They weren't all cool, but there were a lot of really impressive things done, I thought. But the movie had no heart. Like, there was just no center to it. You didn't care about anything. Whereas I feel like this movie had
no talking pie.
This movie had a lot of heart. Even when it was bad, you could tell that it really was the expression of someone's real passion.
Right.
Like,
well, and
you know, he really wanted to make a black and white movie where a girl painted her toes and said he's the bee's knees, and someone pulled up and threw rocks. Like, he really wanted to recreate that moment, and he did all of that stuff very lovingly. I thought it was paced very oddly too.
Yeah.
Until you realize that he's fetishizing this kind of imagery straight through the whole thing, he was just not quite able to give. You know, it wasn't amazing.
Yeah, well,
storytelling.
And the weird thing, and one of the things I made a note of was that he actually does many long takes. Like that whole scene with that first thrill me scene in the lab is all one take. But it's like the problem is it feels so theatrical versus having any movement to it. It's like it's got like a little bit of a push on it, and that's about it. And there's another long take that I thought was interesting was when the cop is going to kill himself, and he gets the phone call, and you have the slow push on the stove while he's like getting his gun and getting everything else, instead of turning it for some odd reason, still letting the gas come out of the stove during this entire take. Because that's the climax.
I didn't put together, like it was probably halfway through the take before I realized what had been happening.
Right.
While he was getting together. I thought it was just lazy filmmaking.
Yeah, no, he did several long shots like that.
But yeah, it was, and again, it was fetishizing. He was lovingly caressing these moments that he had really felt passionate about. You get that from the movie. It's not always effective, but sometimes it is. Checking the napkin there?
I am. Something about human brains. Oh, right. Okay, so
yes.
So for some reason, you have a sorority girl who has decided to. Chekhov's brains is what we'll call this. If you introduce brains in a vat in Act 1, they need to be used in Act 3, which is exactly what they do here, because there's this blatant situation where one of the sorority girls is like,
I don't know if it was blatant. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was blatant. It could happen. They're in a school. I think you're sort of over-analyzing the fact.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am thinking that you're right. You have to supply your own brains for science class.
Yeah, even that, the bookstore is going to charge you. Like, who's going to afford? They're like
bookstore brains are pricey. Yeah.
So you walk around with a jar of brains.
I've got to tell you though, you're all making fun, but it's really made me think twice about storing all my brains in the basement.
Yeah, it's more of an attic storage thing.
I've got a lot of brains down there.
Yeah, so I really liked that bit. That bit made it cracked me up. A great cameo by Dick Miller.
Okay, was he the guy giving out the flamethrower?
Yes.
Yeah. Nonchalantly.
Oh, I missed his name, and then I couldn't look him up, and I didn't recognize him in the cast.
Yeah, Dick Miller. Dick Miller has been in like a ton of Joe Dante movies. He's been in what was the not Bloodsucking Freaks. What was the movie, the Roger Corman film that he was in, where he was the artist that killed people and used them for their art? Oh shoot!
Bucket of Blood.
Bucket of Blood. There you go. Thank you very much. But and the other one. Oh, right. So, but the Dick Miller scene. When police issue flamethrower, that's all I have to say. Police issue flamethrower was just one of those moments where I was like, yeah, we got that here. Why not? We got guns, we got everything else, but every police station needs one flamethrower in their arsenal just in case.
Well, hell, they do now.
Yeah, really. That's actually the point.
Flamethrower? No, we don't got. Oh yeah, wait, no, I got a flamethrower. Hold on, it was checked out, but he brought it back. So yeah, it's here. You're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure they walked out of that scene by just laughing it off. Are you going to sign for that?
No, he put the shotgun up, remember?
Right. But that's how his plan was originally to laugh it off.
Yeah, his flamethrower.
Yeah, so let's see. So we got the single take stuff. We got the Wall of Voodoo stuff. I didn't understand the alien motivation for why he did what he did. But that's okay. I was hoping maybe at the end it would come back and we'd be like, oh, he was a mad scientist or something. Like they just could have put him in a lab coat. Like just put naked alien in a lab coat running down the hall, and then you're like, okay.
To know though, I don't know if you needed to know.
No, you don't need to know at all. Just because they're even talking. Oh, I loved, by the way, that when they spoke to each other, the subtitles were in English and in alien.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was even better because the subtitles were in the main subtitle was in Alien.
Yeah.
And then the English was in parentheses.
Which is weird because you would think that the alien watching it wouldn't need the subtitles. The rest of the film should have been subtitled in English.
That was a different alien language from what they were
right. It was like
different audience.
This is Mandarin versus Cantonese. Yeah,
exactly. I liked how the movie also made a lot of self-references. Like, man, I'd rather have a blood-sucking creature suck on my brain than go out with him or something.
Yeah. There were a few of those.
Yeah.
Well, it had like they used the Plan 9 from Outer Space clips. Striper rules. Oh right, lovely little cameo by David Paymer, a young striking David Paymer.
Cameo. He was crucial to the plot.
He was. You're right. But it was yeah, but it was not a big role, so it's not like it's Dick. Okay, Dick Miller cameo. David Paymer, more of a.
I like how he had that clamp stuck to his neck for no. He's a cadaver, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to clamp anything off, right?
Yeah, I kept wanting to tell him, don't worry, David.
You got a little something on your neck.
Let's see. I wanted to. We got the ending on the Netflix version is different than the theatrical ending. This is the version that they put out on the remake or on the re-release in I think 2010. Loved the. I liked the lead kid cop dynamic.
Yeah.
That takes place. Because that way at the end, when you reach the climax and the kid gets to say "thrill me" and the whole thing takes place.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a nice little touch. Overall, I mean, it's a fun film from the '80s. You will never. This is literally what falls under the definition of a cult classic because you've got something that it cost $4 million to make, only made $400,000 at the box office. So it was just died. And then over time, of course, but it was also released kind of at the perfect moment because of the home video market. So they were able to kind of quickly start gaining a following for it. And nowadays, everybody, and it had such a cult following that in 2010, that's when they did the DVD special edition reissue. So Fred Dekker says "ha ha" to everybody else on that one.
Does he?
I think so. Yeah, I would say yeah. I think. Honestly, between Night of the Creeps and Monster Squad, Fred Dekker has definitely kind of a really kind of solid little following there.
He does have a taste. He does have a taste of immortality there.
Yeah, because Monster Squad is one of those films that has persevered over the years, which I find really fascinating.
Oh, he wrote the story for the original House.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
It's funny because this movie was reminding me of House 2 a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we still have a lot of horror comedies?
Not really.
It seems like there's maybe one or two a year. The one that's coming up is called Housebound. It's a haunted house one.
Yeah.
It's not like Haunted House, like the Wayans Brothers movies, but it's not a parody or satire. It's an actual kind of like Shaun of the Dead take, but with a haunted house.
Right. And then we had what was the Trick or Treat from a couple years ago?
No, Trick or Treat.
I think
not really a comedy, but
No, but it's in that same, but it's in the fun vein. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's in that same. Because I don't know if you could even call Night of the Creeps a comedy as much as it's just fun. Because I don't think anything. I mean, it's definitely tongue in cheek, but it's not. It's not going for laughs per se.
Right. I think that's the difference. Is that tongue in cheek attitude that sort of.
They're very self-aware of the type of movie that they're making, and they're having fun with it and enjoying themselves. It's the Cannonball Run of killer slug movies.
Action movies.
Yeah. It's the Cannonball Run of monster slug movies. And then of course you got the great. I like the heap of monster slugs near the end down in the basement.
Yeah, was that animated?
It was hard to tell. I think it might have been stop motion, but it was hard to tell.
Yeah, I think it was a little
moving them and then repeat. Like 3 different things and then repeat it real fast.
Yeah, because it was only really, really moving wherever the flashlight was hitting it.
And there was only like one, every few worms were moving, and that was it.
It looked like bad CG, but it wasn't CG.
Right. No.
Like they copy and pasted the same wiggling worm.
Yeah. It was probably like 10 worms that were moving.
Because right before they all jumped at him, they were all moving, and then they all went crink. Whoosh.
Right.
They made those sounds too.
They did, yes. Yeah, no, it definitely feels like it's inspiration for the bullets going at Neo in the Matrix for that moment. That's truly where that's from. I'm sure the Wachowskis would admit to that. I think that's.
Hey, first lawnmower on Zombie.
You know what? That's funny. I noticed that.
Stayed alive.
It does. Yeah. That moment actually kind of really stuck out to me as well. I thought that was a great bit. But yeah, lots of good little gore stuff. I mean, it really kind of hits all the proper buttons for the 13-year-old who gets to rent something without the parents caring about what it is they rent, and they get to sit down at the sleepover and eat popcorn and go, oh yeah, and then talk to everybody about it Monday at school.
Right.
That's exactly what this movie is.
You get alien laser battles.
Yep.
You get axe-wielding psycho.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get at least 6 nipples.
Mm-hmm.
You get zombie lawnmower. You get crazy creeps in reverse shots jumping into people's mouths.
Yep.
It's fantastic. It's everything you could hope for in a movie.
It's a pre-pubescent horror movie.
Yeah. And if you find the right girl, you better believe you're going to be kicking the cripple.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Well, there was something that when they got on the bus, when the bros got on the bus, they were like, "Bro, okay, bro," you know, when they got on the bus, and the last dude got on with like the clipboard, and he said, "Dudes, we're gonna get." What was it that he said? He didn't say we're gonna get laid. He said we're gonna get.
Oh God, I can't
thought
remember.
it was such a weird word. I was like, that is such a. Who says that?
Yeah. It was. Now here's the thing. They were going to prom, right?
No, it was a formal dance.
Oh, okay, that was the deal. Okay.
And I know that because I rewatched the trailer today, and the voice. First of all, it's like a 12.5-minute trailer. It just goes on for so long. But the voice is like, "It was the night of the formal dance."
Oh, right.
Like, all right.
Because it was Pledge Week.
Yes.
Right. It was Pledge Week. Yeah. Yeah.
And that
that's
was
right.
what they had to do. Go get a cadaver and throw it on the end. Like,
That
really?
was. You get hazing in the '80s was so much better than it is today. It's now it's like you drink until you throw up or die, and then it was like steal corpses and stupid
Well,
shit
then
like
it was
that.
it was straight up felonies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's back the good old days, the salad days.
Yeah, I love the fraternities. Those guys were so amazing in how they talked to each other. Just their dialogue. It was just their feathered hair and weird mustaches. It was just so.
It so captured my college experience. It's like I was looking in a time capsule of my own existence.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Catch all the director last names. The character had director's last names.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the girl was
Romero,
Cronenberg.
Carpenter,
She was
Hooper,
Cronenberg, Romero.
Cameron, Raimi, and Miner.
Nice. So yeah,
Hooper. Somebody was Hooper.
There's a Landis.
Not Landis, yeah.
There's a Psycho Zombie. Oh no, wait. Thought that might have been reference to Rob Zombie, but this was several years before he was working productively.
I noticed that one of the sorority girls was one of the girls in Weird Science. There was the two girls that Robert Downey Jr. Not Robert Downey
Sure.
Jr. That the two guys wanted to try and get with, and one of them was a blonde and a brunette.
Yep.
And they ended up with at the end, but one of them was the blonde. She was like, I think she answers the door at one point. I was like, I know that girl.
Oh, that's
really?
pretty good.
That's a good
Weird
pull.
Science.
That's a really good pull.
Check that out.
Yeah, it was her.
Yeah, it was her. Oh,
It
I
was
remember.
her.
Yes, with certainty.
I've seen Weird Science enough times. I know that was her.
I
Yeah.
thought I had too. How little I truly know Weird Science.
Apparently not. Apparently not. That's what you're not paying attention
Well,
to
you
the
didn't
background.
realize that you thought that was Anthony Michael Hall and not.
You did.
You got the Rusty's mixed
They're
up.
working together again. That's very
But-
exciting.
I just thought that was like literally the second I saw him, I was like, oh, this dude, they just got some low budget Anthony Michael Hall. And then all of a sudden, I did a quick look up. I was like, oh my God, that's Rusty.
Yeah,
So-
and I got to tell you, it really wasn't until we found the corpse of his buddy that I didn't think his buddy was going to end up with the girl. He should have ended up with the girl.
Yeah, I kept thinking he was gonna like even when he was down there, I was all, get up, JC, get up.
Yeah, I was just rooting for him.
I was like,
So, give me what are some other movies kind of around this time, around this era that you can think of off the top of your head, maybe that kind of run the same gamut.
Well, there's another Jason Lively movie called Ghost Chase, and it's very low budget. It's these kids hunting for ghosts. It's almost in the Scooby-Doo kind of mode. It's not as fun as Night of the Creeps, nowhere near as fun, but it's got probably one of the worst ghost effects in cinema history. One of the creepiest, unintentionally creepy, supposedly cute, unintentionally creepy ghost effects, guys.
I
And
just looked that up. Do you know who directed that and wrote it?
I forget who it did.
Roland Emmerich.
Holy shit. That's right.
Yeah, I'm glad
Wow.
you're wearing that mask because your brain must have just.
Wow.
And of course, there's Monster Squad. There's Explorers, which is kind of it's more kiddie, not so much fun.
I like Explorers.
Explorers is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I rewatched it and it's bad. It's really
is
bad.
it?
Yeah.
Explorers?
I watched it recently.
Yeah. Would you put I want to say I want to put like Terror Vision or
Video Dead.
The Video Dead. What was the? I'm trying to think of the one that was about the kids. The The Gate.
Oh, The Gate's really good.
Yeah, there was House. Yeah, The Gate, House. I feel like there was like a really once videotapes became VHS became mandatory. They were just dumping stuff kind of like this out left and right.
Wasn't The Gate more legitimately scary?
Not really, no. And that's what I thought it was for a long time. It's like Ghoulies probably falls under this thing. Critters.
Well, that's more of your post-Goonies world.
Yeah, that's much more the post.
Which one had rat burgers? Oh no.
There's one I have to recommend.
Yeah.
It's called The Boneyard, and it's about a giant mutant poodle. I'm not kidding. It's fantastic.
From what year? That's amazing.
I want to say early 90s.
Wow.
91.
About a giant killer poodle.
Giant killer
Like a
poodle.
conjoined twin thing? What is this poster? This is upsetting. But Norman Fell is in it.
Well, no longer upsetting.
As is Phyllis Diller.
Still upsetting.
Oh, she plays. She
plays
actually
the
doesn't.
poodle.
She doesn't do any She doesn't do any shtick. She actually plays a crazy person.
Really?
Upsetting.
Yeah.
It does look disturbing.
I'm trying to get a good picture to share.
Yeah, I'm looking here too.
There are the two names above the title. Phyllis Diller and Norman Fell. Rolling into the theaters to get to that one.
Wow. Yeah, but so Night of the Creeps was the one that slipped by everybody in the theaters, but luckily was discovered later on, which is nice.
Here's the movie.
Oh,
that,
wow!
Being recommended.
Phyllis Diller looks like shit. Wow.
So let's drink that in.
Oh, it's a suit. It's a mutant demon poodle suit. Okay, they didn't actually make a mutant demon poodle. By the way, look at those abs.
Way to just shit on the
Holy
magic.
cut. That thing works out.
That's impressive.
Dude, how many reps you do? Trying to.
There's others like Saturday the 14th.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about that, Santo?
What's that?
Earlier though. That's like
Human Bodies.
No, I did bring up Saturday the 14th at one point. I think that may even still be streaming on Netflix. It really is not good either.
But isn't that the one where it's sort of almost a spoof of those movies where the killer?
No, that's Student Bodies.
Student Bodies.
Bodies is the spoof of the killer. Yeah, no. Saturday the 14th. I don't know even why it's called Saturday the 14th because it's got oh my God, who plays the?
It was more like Amityville horror, wasn't it?
No. It's much because it's actually got Dracula and other classic monsters in it. And
what was that actor's name? He was like big in the 70s.
Yeah, and it's loaded with people. Richard Benjamin and a bunch of other.
That's it, Richard Benjamin.
Yeah. And then I forget who played Dracula, but Dracula was somebody, as was his wife, and then Van Helsing even comes in near the end to help solve the issue and stuff like that. It's a blah monster squad in a weird way.
Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite, right? Yeah, that's another.
Bitten.
Oh my God, the film debut of Jim Carrey, right?
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Also,
the Return of the Living Dead movies, the first two. The second one gets a lot of shit, but it's actually more in the mold of Night of the Creeps. It's definitely a comedy.
What was it called?
The Return of the Living Dead was more smart comedy. And then the sequel gets shit on because it wasn't as good as the first, obviously.
Was that the one at the graveyard?
But it's still kind of fun.
Is the second one at the graveyard where like the zombies talk and say,
Yeah. That's the first one.
That's the first. Okay, that's when they're in the church or something.
They bring kids into it, and it's more. There's a grandpa character, and there's kids, and they're fighting these zombies, and it's.
Oh, you know what? I remember that. Yeah, I do.
It's not as smart or satirical as the first one, but it's still fun. It's still fun to watch.
Was Dan O'Bannon involved at all in the second one?
I don't think so. I think he ditched it after. I think his name was attached to it, but I don't think he had anything to do with it.
Gotcha.
Based on characters created by kind of thing.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Right. No Linnea Quigley dancing on a tombstone. So
I think she returned in the third one.
Really?
Different character. Yeah.
Oh, all right. That's because she wasn't booked that week, huh? So okay, let's wrap this thing up. Dub, recommend, not recommend, under what circumstances?
Well, I would recommend it to any horror fan out there. It certainly has everything someone who would normally be into horror movies, especially classic or vintage horror movies, would appreciate. If nothing else, it has a love baked into it of vintage and classic horror movies. I wouldn't recommend it as a comedy. And yeah, it would be a very specific person.
Yeah, fair. Okay, T.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. I think a very special kind of person can appreciate this movie. I think
people are grudges.
People aren't really into it. Probably think it's kind of slow.
Right.
You know, because it's contemporary audiences. But I totally recommend it to anybody who likes horror, comedy, and that kind of stuff.
Warren.
I think I would recommend this to everybody and kind of use it as a litmus test to see if it's somebody I want to hang out with or not.
Good point.
I like that. That's a good one. That's actually a very good point.
It's one of those, like, there's some movies like I wouldn't recommend to anybody, or just because I know I like them. But this, I'd be like, you could really test somebody's sense of humor or acceptance of something by watching this kind of movie and see how you can go with that.
You're right. No, you can totally see find out where they fall on the I just enjoy fun stuff sometimes type of character. Yeah, I think it's I don't know, it's a blast. It's weird. Like anybody, of course, from our age down, it's a great kind of nostalgia trip for movies that we used to watch during that era. I think to some extent it'd be interesting for this generation to watch, only because you get to see a nice example to some extent of movies of that era. That there's a lot of quintessential tropes, as Doug was saying earlier, that really fit into this flick, and so once you see this, it's a good example of the frat boy system that was probably not true at all, but how we perceived frats to be as young kids watching these frats. Yeah, I'm sure it was much more. I'm sure those were much more like how 40-year-olds interpreted frats in the 1980s versus actual 18-year-olds. So that's pretty much it. So Tuesday, we'll be back, and I guess we're gonna move the reviews to Tuesdays. But since we're not gonna have a review next week because it's Shu's turn and he's not here yet, I guess next week, Dub, do you want to do the Doug Liman special on Tuesday?
Oh, I suppose we could. Yeah, I think. I guess we wouldn't count if we can't announce what Shu's movie is.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured if there was somebody else if there was somebody else specifically that we'd like to talk about on Tuesday, we might want to do that. But does anybody have like a singular topic idea off the top of their head that we could go on Tuesday, that we could go for on Tuesday? Person, or I'm trying to figure out, is that a light reflection or is that, I don't know what that is. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, it's something in your camera.
But you see that, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It's on my nose now.
Orb.
Well, we got the winter movies coming up. We could talk about what we're looking forward to.
This is true. You're right. We are moving into the fall season. Maybe what we should do is okay. So what we'll do is we will take a look at the fall season, and then Shu will announce what our next review is going to be, and we will have that ready then for next Tuesday. Oh, there's another one right over here.
Light reflection. There's a light. Yeah, there's a light.
Yeah. So all right. So next Tuesday we're going to look at the fall season, see what's coming out, decide predictions and what we want to see. Hope that it turns out good or bad. And then the Tuesday after that, hopefully, we will come back with the fresh review as decided by Shu. God help us all. It will be fascinating. So, Dub, go ahead. Where can people find you at?
They can find me at Film Geek Dub on Twitter. Very busy week on Twitter for me. I believe I tweeted like 6 times. So
wow.
So you crashed Twitter.
There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
If you had followed me on Twitter, you could have seen my exciting tweet that said I was watching King Solomon's Mines.
We could discuss King Solomon's Mines next week, but we won't.
But then I'd have
That
to
would mean
watch.
I'd have to watch it.
Have to finish watching it, yeah. Yeah, we'll
They're just
pass
not
on
prepared
those.
to do. I
pass
actually
on those.
had King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold on my Netflix queue. I got 10 minutes into King Solomon's Mines, and I removed Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold from my queue.
I don't need to
one
see
movie.
you.
Was now, and I'm trying to remember if it was the guy that I think the guy that plays Punjab from Annie, the 7-Up guy, or was he the Sprite guy? I forget who he was, but I believe he's the bad guy in Alan Quartermain, and the Last City of Gold, or it is no, I think it is him, or it's James Earl Jones. It's one of the two. That's the horrible part. It's one of the two.
Yep, Conan the Barbarian.
So racist.
No, I think James Earl Jones was appearing on street corners during that era for some reason. I don't know why.
No, it wasn't him. In King Solomon's Mines, the actual true villain is the watching of King Solomon's Mines in the first.
Right.
Oh.
It's a meta statement.
Well, canon films, they can't all be winners. As a matter of fact, a majority of them weren't, and that's what makes
Back to
them
the question:
beautiful.
can any of them be winners?
Yeah. They had a couple, but not many. T, where can people find you?
At El Tremendo and ElTremendo3000.com.
Straight to the point. I like it. Warren.
At Warren Graff and at Warren Graff.
And you can find me at John Santo. Shu, who's in Vegas right now, again, play us out. Okay. And we will
Shu, let me blow.
we will see you on Tuesday.